Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of Rise Up the Podcast. I'm back, Danny Seibel here with your favorite hosts, Scotty Rogers and Greg Gorenlian. Fellas, how are we doing? We're picking up the cadence. We're getting ourselves more involved, talking it up. Good to see you boys back on the computer.
Get to see you every week now. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, man. The way God intended. Every single week. A little dose, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Scotty, we missed you last week. You had to take care of some business, but, man, we're glad to have you back. Good to see your pretty face.
Good to see you, boys.
Yeah. Sibes, fill us in. What was your week like, man?
I'll tell you what. I come on here and tell you guys, you know, how much of a laxer I am, how much I love lax. I'm a little laxed out. Laxed out. I've had just so much going on. Last weekend, I had my third graders that I coach on Saturday. It was freezing rain. And
you're laxed out. You're laxed out?
75% were crying.
Hey, Greg, he's laxed out.
I'd do that. Come on, listen. Then my buddy TJ Comizio plays for the Georgia Swarm. They were playing on Long Island this weekend. So I went, saw him. Shout out to TorchPro employee Elon Tuckerman, hooked me up with some tickets and media passes, got on the floor. Cool first experience at an NOL game. That was awesome to do. And then Sunday I had NIAC Men's League. So big lax weekend for me.
It's in Long Island. It's not on.
Not on? I thought everyone says on.
No, we're in.
In?
God, you're the first person I've ever heard say that.
We're in the island.
He's ball
Dude,
busted.
I hear in Long Island, I hear we're on Long Island, and I also hear we're standing online, which drives me freaking nuts.
Not in
line.
line.
On the internet.
Not in line.
Any line.
Online.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Scotty, give us a breakdown. You were, last week you missed our show. You were spelunking in Denmark.
Yes, I was skiing the Alps, Swiss Alps.
Skiing the Alps.
But also, I mean, it's amazing to hear Sieb say he's laxed out, because I think Sunday I did 10 lessons from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I will tell you, I was laxed out.
Wow. Yeah, that'll get you. We had, so from an FOA standpoint, once the season starts, the guys are basically just kind of keeping dialed in. And I'm also an assistant coach here at Mamaroneck. So we started our season, the 14-4 win over Lakeland. And so we're rebuilding. We're in a rebuild. We had a lot of studs graduate. Then what I'm really pumped about is there's this company, NextGel, that I've partnered with, and they had these pharmaceutical grade turf burn patches and kits that were in hospitals. And the FDA approved them to be sent over the counter. So now they're hopping right into the sports world, which is smart. So I have these sick turf burn kits, and any of my kids that I coach anywhere in the country that have been like, oh, I got turf burn, especially those boys in Texas, I've been sending them down, dude, and they're like, these are miracles. So it's called Turf Guard.
What is the FDA?
The FDA.
Food and drugs.
Never use
Frank,
that
David,
before.
and Alex. And we have to ask them about everything.
Never take
So the Turf Guard patch, man. If anybody's out there, if you're a trainer, you got to get your hands on these. These are unbelievable. It's a lot of cool stuff, but mainly high school lacrosse has started now for me. So I'm excited.
And I'm coaching at Calvert Hall, so we're in it right now. So that's been a grind. So we're in it, and the kids are. That's like coaching college, man. The MIAA starts this Friday.
Those kids just got it like that, man. They're so talented now. How about that?
Dude, I ripped them a new one the other day. I was like, do you know how fucking lucky and privileged you are? I played on a steel cage in Levittown, New York. What is so bad? Is life that hard? Like, it was a fucking, I went off.
Yo, I'll tell you what, though, not to get on a soapbox, but you couldn't pay me to be a kid right now. Dude, we grew up without the internet, man. We had it the best.
Dude, these kids are getting paid now. These high school kids are getting NOI deals.
Out, man. It's a nightmare. I got two boys. I am stressed out thinking about what they're going to be stressed out about.
Yeah.
Scotty, tell me a little bit about that String King video you did. That was awesome. I saw that up on your Instagram. That was sweet.
Yeah. So, Gibby loves doing content. He just thinks he basically treats me like a gorilla in a zoo. He thinks I'm so entertaining. So he literally was like, dude, I'm flying out. I have no idea what I'm doing yet, but we're going to do something. So he shows up, brings me a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. He's like, let's go. I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, just do what you do. I'm like, I'm gonna go lift in the garage. He's like, all right, that's perfect. I'm like, okay. So somehow that became entertainment, and then he got, talking to him's easy because he's very like, he's actually, dude, he's fucking brilliant. Like,
Dude, he is brilliant.
like he's like, dude, he's like one of those like kind of he plays the struggling writer, but he's like, dude, he went to Yale. I know where he's from in Long Island. Like, he's like actually doing this to himself on purpose. Like, he's like literally like putting himself through the struggle just
It's
to
like
feel
when Bruce Wayne decided to leave his mansion and go.
yeah, and like, dude, I went to visit him out like Long Beach. He was living in Long Beach, California. Like, dude, it's a little rough over here. Like, literally had a crackhead jiggling his door, and I'm like, why are you doing this? He's like, I need to submerge myself for my book. I'm like, you can put me in a hotel. I don't need to be here.
I don't have to be submerged.
I'm not in your book. It was fucking crazy, bro. He's brilliant. So
I remember when my boy Cooch was playing down for the Atlanta Blaze, he said that Gibson just lived at someone's house in his van, just in the driveway, parked it in Atlanta for the whole summer.
Dude, he's a nomad.
Gibby is the exact antithesis of me. He is very low maintenance. Just loves like we talk about going to Vegas. Like, he loves seedy Vegas. That's where you'll find Gibby.
Greg, the bar he took me to, it was like you could smoke in it, and it was locals only. And I walked in, and everyone, it's like the music starts. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, Gibby, where are we? He's like, I want to go play pool. This is where I go every night. I'm like, bro.
Wow.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah, Gibby's a beauty, man. And honestly, one of the most underrated lacrosse players of all time. The guy was absolutely bananas.
Dude, best hands I've ever seen.
We should 100% cue him up for the show. Absolutely. Get a line out here.
Yeah.
Such an interesting dude. Love to hear him chop it up with us.
Yep.
Yeah. There's actually a great shot his senior year when Yale won, I think, the Ivy League championship. And they scored the winning goal, and he went to like high five the ref as the ref was giving the goal thing. He like goes up to high five the ref.
He's such a shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in there.
Well, fellas, we have an action-packed episode. We have a recap of last weekend's games for college lacrosse. I know Scotty's super pumped to break down that Notre Dame game. Yep. We have some PLL updates, some Hall of Fame announcements. We have some, final last-minute, 90th minute signings of free agency before that window closed down. And we have an awesome interview in store for you guys. We have Deemer Class of First Class Lacrosse, professional veteran, and of Duke lore, won 2 national championships down there. So we're pumped to get him on, have him chop it up with us in this episode.
Yeah, Deemer's awesome, man. What he's done with his First Class platform is sick. So I can't wait for him to break stuff down for us.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And as always, this episode is sponsored by Roback. Make sure you use code RISEUP20 for 20% off all your orders. Spring season's coming. Get those short sleeve polos. Get that golf gear ready. I know I'm stocking up. I played golf down in Florida a couple weeks ago. I mentioned that. Had all my Roback gear on. Scotty's pumping his weights in his Roback gitch. He's moving those plates. I don't even know what exercise is. That standing up chest press, loading up all the weights on that machine.
Called Alpha.
Is that what it's called? Alpha?
Alpha Press.
Alpha Press. Love it. Did you coin that yourself?
I just made it, yeah.
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 Well, whatever it is, it's working. We see the results.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to Deemer Class. Everyone, welcome Deemer to this episode of Rise Up. Everyone, give a warm welcome to our guest on episode 22, Deemer Class. Went to Duke. Professional lacrosse veteran. Now you might know him from First Class Lacrosse. He's doing great things, coaching up the youth, coaching up high school boys and girls. Deemer, warm welcome to the podcast. We're pumped to have you, man.
Thanks, guys. Excited to be here. It's been fun to hear your other episodes, and excited to chop it up with you guys.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, man. Deemer, it's really funny, dude, because having you on here is awesome. I remember when you and I really didn't know each other that well, and you first started First Class Lacrosse, and we were kind of, I was just kind of giving you some insight onto the clinic business and stuff, and to see what you have done with it. Kids who don't know, man, Best in Class is your signature event. It is one of the absolute can't miss recruiting events for a rising junior. and you've done a lot of awesome stuff. It's just cool seeing where it's been and where it's going to go. And I can't wait to ask you some questions and just see where things are right now. Why don't you give the people that are listening in just kind of like a quick overview of how you started First Class Lacrosse and why?
Yeah, Greg, appreciate the kind words. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out my first partner, Ryan Brown, coming out of school. We loved training together, and then we started RBDC Lacrosse, and we did that for about a year and a half, and that's when I remember it was humble beginnings. My first year doing it full time, coming out of a finance job, I did clinics in 25 states and 40 cities that first year doing it full time. And then when Ryan moved on to the club world and I was kind of debating, getting into college at USC, that's when I rebranded as First Class Lacrosse. And have always loved, the small group training and the skill development. And then it's been exciting to see that grow into mentorship, training events, and Greg, you've definitely kind of seen that along the way in terms of what you guys have done. But it's exciting to see. We try to make a lot of content on Instagram and doing more with YouTube now, and just trying to find ways to impact players and coaches. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, Deem. So like, I always thought he was one of the good guys in the sport, meaning like you coach it the right way, right? Like some of us play, and a lot of guys say they could coach, but I think there's a handful of guys that can actually do it right. And I think you've always done it right. But coming from, I coach at Calvert Hall, Tori Casemeyer's there. I know you learned a lot from him, and we call him the shooting whisperer back here in Maryland. What did he help you kind of shape that like business and like how you do things?
Yeah, I would say, I first off, I learned so much as a shooter and an offensive player from Tori. He really helped us, learn how to approach, the craft and learn how to dig into that part of the sport. And my first lesson with him wasn't until I graduated high school, and we just came off a 17-3 loss to Calvert Hall in the finals. He wasn't allowed to work with me that spring, so then we waited till after they kicked our ass, and I just wanted to get better, and I wanted to learn and try to, be the best shooter and offensive player I could. And so, those sessions I really, look back fondly upon. And, Tori is still a close friend and mentor of mine. And, I think I just wanted to, create that, in my own way. And then obviously I think in general, I've just been fortunate to have really good coaches. And so they've really taught me to, almost attack the coaching profession like I attacked the skill development as a player. So I just started to see, the value in just like any profession, even you guys trying to make this a great podcast, like you have to work at it. And so I just tried to really take that mindset into my coaching and try to be the best coach I could be. And then I think learning just how to run the business along the way.
That's a great point, Deemer. And, you talked about how you started with Ryan Brown. And I feel like, though, you made it seem kind of easy how it started. And I look at you and, Greg mentioned your best in class event. I think about, back when I was in high school getting recruited, it was Jake Reed's Blue Chip. And I'm like, Deemer's like the new Jake Reed. That's what it is to me, like the premier recruiting event to showcase these, top 50 high school, top whatever, 75 high school players. How did you go from kind of being lesson based to establishing yourself as that kind of pinnacle event on the recruiting circuit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one thing that still is important for us, and, again, I think another, big part of that is bringing Matt Dunn into the business, which I'm sure we'll get to as, his obviously amazing, impact to be had on the sport, coaching the defensive side of the ball. But we started taking the small group approach into what we would call live reps. So we just saw a need for structured small-sided drills and getting top O&D players against each other and trying to teach in those situations. And then again, like all you hear about is in club and summer ball, games. And when you hear kids getting to college less prepared than they were when we were in high school to a degree in terms of team concepts. So, here I am thinking about everything we're doing on the skill side. It's always going to be a core of what we do, the shooting, the dodging, and that piece. But how can we add value now on the event side and create something that is worth someone's time in a busy summer? And that's where we landed on Best in Class. And again, it can be easy to fall into the showcase narrative and just show up, play, get recruited. But we have a strong training emphasis on that. And look, we face resistance. Like, people will say, hey, don't waste your time going to train. Like, you just need to get recruited in the summer. And that's fine. There's always going to be those people, but this is true to who we are and what we believe in. And it's been really cool going on year 3, coming this summer, to see the results already and kids who have bought in and then come back for our committed event now. And then the relationships built along the way.
Yeah, the Best in Class, your first year you did it, I remember talking about the training aspect. And look, it's nothing against anyone who runs a quote unquote showcase where you roll a bucket of balls out, throw a kid on a team, and just play lacrosse a whole bunch of times. But what people don't understand, and if you're a parent of a lacrosse player, you have to understand the value of a coach watching your kid get coached. Being able to see how your kid takes instruction, how he approaches the practice portion of this, that's not visible on the recruiting trail most of the time. So I remember the training portion, you brought in the best of the best at every position. The kids were absolutely awesome. They were so dialed in, which is refreshing because it was mostly committed kids, mostly rising juniors. And a lot of these kids, like you said, they're not used to being coached during the summer. They're used to just playing on a team and being told how good they are. So training, being told what they can do better, and then seeing exactly how they react to that is massive. And then we did the games at night, and literally, like, Sibes, literally the top 25 poll was on the sideline. And that's the other part of it, is you can pay a bunch of money to have your coaches come, but Deemer has personal connections with these coaches. And I was literally watching kids perform, play, and then punching their tickets to school. And it was all the right way. It wasn't, oh, this kid just happened to have a good game. It was, I watched this kid learn how to alley dodge correctly from Deemer today. He put that exact thing into practice, and he had 2 goals. Like, it's a very unique event in that aspect.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And then tell us about the platform, because the platform was really like the online training platform is, in my opinion, where you really broke ground in the sport. Tell us how that's going. What was the approach to that?
Yeah, so that approach really started to stem from, again, I think the belief in consistency. And, going back to even working with Tori, he taught me a way to shoot, a way to think about shooting. If you missed a couple shots, what simple cues could you correct? How to self-adjust. Nowadays, if you go to 20 different group sessions and 20 different trainers, when the times get tough, you might not have anything to fall back on because there's nothing that you truly believe in, right? So meanwhile, that first summer, I'm going to 25 states, 40 some cities, but then what are the kids doing in between? What are they doing to further their development in their own time? I would get tons of questions from players, parents. What drills should I be doing in the backyard? And so that's where I just felt like there was a need to, create the content around, here are the drills we do, here's how to do them, here's some suggestions around reps and building your own routines. And then we're going to provide that content that you can sign up for. And, honestly, we tried to make it, as affordable as you could. And, relative to how many one-on-ones and what people pay for that, we always felt like there was immense value. We've continued to build that. I think how that's delivered is always going to change and evolve. There's so many platforms you can deliver media on now. And, we've worked too, as we've added Matt, to provide that to teams and coaches as well. So, but again, like, we're continuing to just try to perfect our craft in that, in terms of what types of content. We have such a base of our original drills, but now it's team drills. Now it's drills from Best in Class that we're pulling into that platform. And Matt and I are making diagrams and talking over that stuff for coaches to be able to implement into practices too. So we're just trying to like really create this holistic training development program between in-person stuff and online. And I think that really extends our reach, and kids can keep training with us. We've evolved that into Zoom calls and film study, virtually with players and with teams. And it's been exciting. So we're just constantly trying to get better and be on that mission of what's going to help move the needle for their development.
I think that's important. Like you said, two things that kind of resonate, right? The routine piece is important because I don't think kids have a good sense of routine now, right? And I think if you have a routine, you'll get better because that's like preparation leads to confidence, confidence leads to performance. That's how I always teach it, right? But then there's also the coaches piece, like you're educated coaches. Some of these coaches don't have the maybe IQ we all have. So when we come into town for a one-stop shop clinic and I leave, it goes back to like what it was, right? And it's like you want them to kind of have these tools to practice what you teach so it can stay and stick. And I think that's what your platform does, man. I think that's a huge piece. It's the coach's education also.
Yeah. And Scotty, like there's a huge misconception that like we're going to create this content and it's going to replace what you do. Like
right.
that's not it. Like obviously I'm a coach. I've got an ego. I'm a player. Yeah. Like I've got an ego. Everyone's got an ego. Like no one wants to kind of be told like, hey, what you're doing is completely wrong. Throw it out the door. Here's what you do, and I'm just going to hand you this. Yeah. But it's just to continue your development, your creative ideas, and I can't tell you how many times that, I've even gone and done, small group or team training with a school, and just the different way we changed a 3-on-2 or a 4-on-3 to manipulate the space. Coach is like, hey, I love that wrinkle. Like, I can't wait to use that more. And that's what it's all about. And so even for me now, like I got to Duke practice this spring. I got to UVA practice. I got to Hopkins women's practice, and I'm just trying to learn. And then like what I'm learning, I want to pass that on. And I'm a lax junkie. I love talking about this stuff. So that's what we're trying to do. But again, I'm also trying to break down those walls of, look, this is just an extra resource at your disposal. I'm posting stuff on Twitter all the time. Like I just love learning in the sport.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Scotty.
No, I was gonna say Greg, you've dealt with it, Deemer's dealt with it. Like, listen, the ego of the coaches sometimes now is like, listen, so when I pitch myself, I'm like, I'm coming in one time this year to your state or wherever I'm coming. I'm not trying to take over your program. I'm not trying to compete with you. So embrace me. Right. And let me use your goalies are going to get knowledge and then I'm going to leave. So it's like, I'm not trying to shit where you are. I'm not trying to take your kids, your fees, your tuition fees. I'm just trying to help your kid. That's honestly what I try to portray.
Kind of surprising sometimes, right? Like none of us have a club program. I'm not going to steal your kids. I just want to show up for 2 hours, make them better and then leave. Mm-hmm. Or help you, like Deemer said, give you knowledge as a coach. If you can pretend like it's your idea, it's totally fine. Yeah. Hey, these are your shooting drills. You made them up. All good. But I think one of the things that Deemer just said, which is one of the keys to being a good coach or a teacher in general, is that you consistently want to learn. And anybody who walks around thinking they know everything doesn't know anything. Yep. And I think when you're a responsible coach, teacher, parent, you're trying to learn not just from other people, but from the kids, right? And, when you're a good coach, you learn a lot from the kids you're coaching. So, yeah, I think that's a huge thing that you said there, Deemer. I think a lot of people need to take that advice.
Yeah, it's, it's constantly evolving. The sport keeps evolving, 2028, if sixes hits the Olympics, it's going to be a whole nother discipline that the style of play, the types of shots that are considered good shots. Yeah. And again, you can get caught up in, should sixes even be a thing? But I'm already thinking how can sixes be a development tool or just a great avenue for kids to play more unstructured, because that's where my mind goes. So it's anytime there's change, there's also opportunity.
Yes.
I think that's a good point. And you bring up an interesting thing about kind of, thinking about the future and thinking about what's next. And I've been fortunate enough to go down to some of those Jersey sessions with Cooch, and I see how, committed these kids are to getting better, learning from the coaches, and just committed to, being a first class athlete. I guess in your mind, what is the next step? Like, what do you see, first class lacrosse in 5 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm always thinking about it. I would say, I hope that in 5 years that all of the summer events we're doing now are running strong. This summer we're going to be doing 3 boys events, so 25s, 26s, 27s, and then we're doing 2 girls, 2025s and 2026s. So hopefully those are considered, still elite, prestigious events that are running strong with great coaching and a new crop of coaches too, like kids that have come through our program coming back to work those, which I think is going to be a really cool part of it. And it's already happened. We've already seen that in 1 or 2 years. So I'm excited to see, what coaches are involved with FCL at that point and how it's grown, but still continuing our intimate relationship based approach. We want to continue to build our online resources, and then, I'll be curious to see in terms of, is there ways that we can, make a positive impact in the tournament space, or something that, again, it's still boutique. It's not trying to be overly massive in the quantity of things that we're doing, but still rooted in the quality. And so we're just going to keep looking at, what do these players need? What do the schedules permit? Maybe there's something that we can do better. Maybe there's something that, we just have to keep believing in our vision and our vision of how the in-person fits with the remote, the digital. So I think it's going to be something along those lines. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be, college coaching. I was fortunate to have a great experience working at USC, but I love being able to work with men's and women's players now. And so I'm excited, but I think it's going to be, very similar to what you're seeing, just hopefully better and smoother operations.
Well, there's no doubt, man, that you put the work in. I've watched it, and it's pretty awesome to see how it's grown. The social media, the platform itself is massive now. It's a great resource for people. So if anybody is interested, please let them know real quick your social handles and URL.
Yeah, on Instagram, we're at First Class Lacrosse, no spaces. On Twitter, we're at First Class Lax with an underscore. Myself, at Tutu Classy on Instagram. Just pumped that it's the 22nd episode, too.
Oh, baby.
What a coincidence. And then we're at First Class Lacrosse on TikTok. And those are our big ones. And then the one that we are making a big push right now is our YouTube channel. We're putting out a lot of great high school recaps and highlights. I've released more instructional videos that are not, they've been on our online platform for a few years, but now we're putting out those to the public and trying to figure out the YouTube landscape. So you can just find that at First Class Lacrosse on YouTube. And so that's been exciting too, because now as we've worked with a lot of players and content continues to be key, like how can we, support these athletes and showcase what they're doing in a positive way? There's a lot of, I got into some Twitter, Instagram beef last week on the taunting.
Scotty knows all about that.
Yeah, but again, like we got to stay true to who we are. We want to raise great athletes on the field, but we want them to carry themselves in the right way, respect the sport, respect the guys and girls that they're playing against, and so we got to stick to who we are on that front too.
Yeah, Deemer saying something kind and very informative, and he was responded with a bunch of, Scott, you'd be shocked with this, a bunch of anonymous alt-right Twitter guys. Oh, toughen up. And he's like, when did you start your Twitter account? Oh, yesterday. So you made it just so you can talk to Deemer today. Cool.
It sucked.
Yeah.
Deemer, you mentioned going down to UVA, going down to Duke, helping those guys out, getting ready for the season. For those listening, Deemer is a Duke legend, won 2 national championships down there. What do you think of the boys this season? They got a shot? How they looking?
I think they got a shot, but I'm not going to overplay it because I want all the hype to be about Virginia, Notre Dame, anyone but Duke, right? They're overrated. They missed the tournament last year, so we'll just keep letting all the talk be about the other guys. But I think they're building some good chemistry, and they've always got the talent, and but I think they're building good chemistry. Guys are working hard. I got to see them play St. Joe's on Saturday, and battled a tough St. Joe's squad. So I'm excited. I mean, they've got UVA 2 times in the next 3 weeks, so big Friday night game coming up in Charlottesville, and any Duke alum knows that Duke UVA is one of the biggest games that we played. So it's going to be exciting.
I got the honorary invite to Schaefer's in Chelsea this Friday night, 5 p.m. I'm pumped to go watch the Dukies.
That's going to be legendary. Are you bringing Cooch with you or what?
I don't know. We got to get him out of Hoboken, but I've been playing Nyack lacrosse with some of the Duke guys, so they tossed out the invite. I'm not going to say no to some beers and happy hour lacrosse.
Bring Fowler with you. Burn the building to the ground.
Schaefer's is the spot. That's the Duke watering hole.
Oh yeah, we got lacrosse at 5, then 2 Final Four games. Should be a good night.
Yeah, you should be sober.
I just got hungover hearing that.
Yeah.
All right, Deemer, thanks a lot, man. You're the man, dude. Keep doing your thing, dude. You're crushing it.
Yeah, well, appreciate you guys having me on the pod. Fun to chop it up with 3 great guys, and excited to hear some of your future episodes.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Deemer. We are back. What a great interview with Deemer Class. It's so cool to talk to him and see how he's grown First Class Lacrosse from it was RBDC to starting with, intimate lessons and trainings to doing what he did at USC to now where he is at. It's just so great to see it and so cool how, he's retired from pro, but you can still make a living and be lacrosse, be your full-time job, no matter what you're doing. We have 2 guys on, Scotty and Greg, who do it themselves, but just so cool hearing another perspective, seeing how people got there. Everyone kind of goes their own path, but man, it was great having him on.
Yeah. You know what? He made a really good point because Scotty and I do the clinic business, and we said the same thing. Jerry and I were just traveling all over God's green earth. And I remember during the pandemic, we had a conversation about how we have to kind of alter our business model. And I was like, look, man, I got kids. I can't be flying all over the country every week. But also, me training a kid in Texas for 1 hour every 6 months isn't going to get him caught up to the kids in New York.
Right.
So we started doing what Deemer just talked about, which is anybody who's ever done something like this, it's incredibly gratifying, is hiring guys you physically coached. And we have 22 FOA coaches now. And they're all guys that have gone through our system and they're proven that it works. And we move them to different parts of the country. So now you're casting a bigger net, and those kids can finally get the weekly training that everybody else gets in the Northeast. So that's pretty awesome. Speaking of which, shameless plug. Okay, I just dropped this week.
You just did one.
No, that was just talking about facts.
Are you talking about the shaft? Because I need one. I broke a shaft this weekend.
Get you a shaft. I'll get you a shaft.
I broke a shaft this weekend.
Got it. I got you. I'll get you an FOA side tie.
Yep.
No, so I just dropped my FOA hand speed program. The number one question I get every single day as a face-off coach is how do I get faster? How do I react quicker on the whistle? So
wait, Greg, before you do that, my philosophy on that is train fast, be fast. Train slow, be slow.
That's true. When you look at the levels, though, like as a goalie too, right? Is me juggling balls going to make me faster at being a goalie? No.
No, I don't even know how to juggle.
Is just reaction going to make me faster as a goalie? No. Is just moving my hands fast going to make me a goalie? No. Your nervous system has to fire at a higher rate, right? And the reason, Scotty, you're good at what you do is because you react quickly. And when you do react, when your brain decides to, your body moves with the best velocity possible. So the hand speed program brings my kinesiology background into this thing. We work on the nervous system. We work on the actual muscles that are designed for a face-off as well. And then we also have a reaction component. And we had 300 downloads in the first weekend.
Let's go, man.
About it. So, I want to throw that out there, man. It's on the official beastlab.com.
Love that.
I love that. Well, we got some great updates in the college lacrosse world. Let's kick it right off with Scotty's alma mater, Notre Dame. They were cooking this year. Some big wins, beat Maryland in overtime. Hit a little speed bump, but against UVA, there's no shame there. I watched some of that game. I know, Scotty, you said you tuned in. What an atmosphere that looked like to play in. The weather looked like it was shit, and no one gave a fuck. Like, it was awesome atmosphere.
The ND football team showing up on the sideline and going ape shit was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know what that does for recruiting, dude?
Yeah.
Like, because when you're at Penn State, there was never like I was there when Joe Pollard was there. It was like we weren't even allowed to be on the grass. Like, it's, you know what I mean? But like Ohio State has benefited a great deal from Nick Myers' relationship with that football program. Those ND football players have no idea what they just did for the lacrosse team. Just doing that is unbelievable.
Players are juiced up.
What'd you see in that game, Scotty? What are you thinking about your squad?
Listen, the one thing I wanted to see more of is like we kind of let Schellenberger have his hands, right? So once he has his hands, he's like kind of like Steele Stanwick used to do, just survey the field and just dish, right? I just wish we were a little more aggressive on ball, but like besides that, listen, that was a game of momentum swings. I think the football team coming, that start to the second half was, I was like, we're back. But then, dude, Virginia had an answer for every like momentum swing. Like that kid, their cuts off ball, they were giving us fits off ball. I mean, and listen, man, that's an experienced big game team. Like they played in those games. They know the environment. They play in that environment at home. So I mean, I just thought it was a good battle. They're going to see each other again. That was a good gauge though. Like, listen, you need to be humbled, I think too. I think if Notre Dame would have ran the table and they get to the playoffs, they would have hit that speed bump anyway. So
I think in terms of the ACC, I mean, it's Notre Dame, Virginia, and then Deemer mentioned it when we had him on that, Duke, no one's really talking about them, and they've quietly, I think they only have one loss, and it was to Jacksonville, and they're rolling right now. They're hitting their stride, and then obviously you got Maryland. I think that four, class of their own. I mean, if I were to say that's the Final Four, if the seeding lines up that way, I think those are the four best teams in the country at this point. I think we're about halfway through the season. Greg, what else have you been seeing? I know Penn State had a couple tough losses, as well as Villanova just had a absolute heartbreaker on Monday when they just got ranked so high. But same with Penn State, dropping to Marquette, dropping to Maryland. What are you seeing out of your Nittany Lions?
I thought what got Penn State to where they are after those three big Ivy League game wins was that they sell out on every ground ball. They win faceoffs. They get second chance opportunities from riding like there's no tomorrow. And it's a real, I said this as soon as after they won that third game and they were going to play Marquette. I was like, dude, there is nothing that hinders success more than respect. And when people start giving you a lot of respect in those polls, it's uncomfortable, especially when you're used to being a dog.
Yeah.
So I took my son out to Long Island at MacArthur at the house that Scotty built, and they played Marquette, and you could tell that off the bus, Penn State was in a trap game. Now, I don't mean a trap game as in they're playing against a inferior opponent, because I think Marquette is vastly underrated. I think their defense is incredibly disciplined. Their face-off guys are very athletic. And on attack, they were incredibly efficient on offense. So Penn State was not prepared for a dogfight. They got one and ended up losing by a goal to Marquette. And then the following week, they played Maryland. They played much better, and they lost by a couple of goals to arguably the top three team in the country. So I think even though they lost that second game, I don't consider it a slide. I just think it's like a barometer of, okay, this is where we're at right now. We are 3 goals below Maryland. Let's continue to build. So yeah, I mean, I think the Big Ten and the ACC, we're going to get into those slugfests, and we're going to see a lot. Like the Ivy League right now is eating itself.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to watch. But I think right now, I mean, there's no argument to me that UVA, Notre Dame, and Maryland are the top 3 in the country. And then you're gonna have to convince me that Duke's gonna have to, not they don't have to necessarily win, but this needs to be an absolute war for me to be considering them as the 4th best team in the country, and be along like up in that discussion.
So I watched a little bit of the Princeton Yale game, and like
Ass
that
kicking.
game. Yeah, and it was like 12-3.5, right? I think so. Like Princeton was
Yeah.
up. Listen, but that's what I'm saying. Like that, so that battle testing, like when you beat the shit out of each other all year and you get to the playoffs, I think there's some merit to that, right? Like they're going to be tough, man. They're going to be a tough out. So I think even if like an Ivy League team gets in and it's a low seed, they're going to fucking go. They're going to make a run.
Dude, it's like SEC football, man.
Yep.
Like, and the other thing too, by the way, Princeton's starting faceoff guy, Tyler Sandoval, blew his ACL this year on the third faceoff of the game. Shout out to him. I hope he's resting up, feeling better. And then a shout out to Kobe Ginder, who came into the game and had his first action and blew the doors off it. New York City kid who younger brother of Jordan Ginder, who graduated from Duke actually. So shout out to those guys. But I think when you are playing in a conference like that, you're right. Like any given day, any of those teams can be. Look what Brown just got their dudes back and beat the hell out of Villanova.
No, they sat in a zone and won by 3 because their goalie made 22 saves.
Beat the hell out. Scotty, beat the hell out of Villanova.
That's not what happened.
Blew them out.
You can't
Blew them out by 3 goals.
Like,
Blew them out by 3 goals. Scotty, that's almost a goal a quarter more than
I'm out. Villanova's faceoff guy got injured in the second quarter. Cheap shot to the head.
See,
Then
here's my thing. I went to Notre Dame. I never really talk them up. You love talking up Nova.
listen, I think that when Villanova should deserve their respect, they should get it. They had a great start to the season. They started 7-1. They beat Penn State and they beat UPenn and they had one loss to Yale. They have Brown on a Monday trap game after Brown seniors come back from suspension. There was 6 of them or something. You don't think they're going to come fired up off that bus? Like, it was a classic letdown moment. But now, if they take care of business in the Big East, who cares, right?
Well,
they got
unbelievable.
What's up?
Absolute savage beating.
Okay. Man.
Dude, I'm just look. I'm not used to seeing Villanova get manhandled by 3 goals.
But before one thing you touched on that I want to get into, Greg, is about the Big Ten. We talked about Scotty's ACC. Yeah. Ohio State is an interesting team to me, right? They just beat Rutgers. Rutgers was getting a ton of love. I don't think Rutgers' schedule is that good. They were getting a ton of love. Ohio State gets the doors beat off them by Denver, by Notre Dame. I think they only scored 3 goals against Notre Dame, and they got killed by Virginia. So, like, is the Big Ten just UMD and Penn State, maybe Hopkins, or what do you think about the Big Ten?
I don't know. I mean, Hopkins is if you're a DraftKings guy, Hopkins. I won't look at Hopkins. You don't know which one of those teams are going to get off the bus, man. There could be Pete Milliman's dogs are there, and they're going to kick the shit out of you, or the kids who don't know how to catch and throw. You have no idea. Ohio State, I'll admit it, I'm a little shocked. I expected Ohio State to compete very squarely with Maryland this year, so I'm pretty surprised there. And then the other surprise, Justin Inacio, the former Ohio State player, Team Canada faceoff man, and Archer's faceoff man, is the faceoff coach for Ohio State. They are performing way above their pay grade. So I'm really surprised Ohio State is where they're at. Penn State, I think, did a very good job those 3-game stretches, but they got to prove to me that they're comfortable being a ranked team and expecting to win and doing it. And yeah, I mean, Maryland's the class of that conference right now. Weirman's being Weirman. They're playing Maryland ball right now. So, until someone shows me something crazy, and I agree with you. I think Rutgers, good for them and all, but they hadn't done anything to earn the ranking yet, in my opinion. So, we'll see. We'll see. You never know with the Big Ten, man. But same thing with ACC, Ivy League. You never know. Like, except for Maryland being awesome, you have no idea what's going to happen on any given day, man.
We got some big games this weekend. We have some picks coming up. We're highlighting 4 games coming up this weekend, and we got some spreads. And Greg loves his DraftKings. I like to dabble as well. We'll start keeping a record like we did with the PLL. I'd love to see who comes out on top. If you guys remember correctly, I had the best record for the PLL picks. So we'll see if one of you guys can top me. First game,
Scotty, only one of us put a lot of money on the Chrome winning the 6s, though.
Well, our first game we mentioned with Deemer, huge matchup for Duke. Duke versus UVA. UVA's at home. Duke has to travel to Charlottesville, and they are favored. UVA's favored by 2.5 goals. I think this is going to be a good game. What do you think, Scotty?
Dude, I think Duke comes out, surprises everyone, man. I think Brendan O'Neill is, dude, I love watching that kid play. So I think he's going to go off. If they get some even okay goaltending, I think they'll be in it the whole time. I think there's an upset there. I think Duke wins that one.
I like that.
At home, UVA at home,
UVA at home.
at night,
I don't have the time.
Friday night game, right? Thought it was Friday.
Oh, Friday, 5 p.m. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Oh, Friday, 5 p.m. That's
Right.
that's a shitty time to play lacrosse.
Happy hour.
So shitty. So
Happy
shitty.
hour.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
UVA is getting 2.5.
Mhm.
I would go with the money line on this, but I wouldn't go with the spread if I were pick. But I would pick UVA, but I would take the money line.
My train of thought when I see games of this magnitude, these two good of teams, and seeing a spread of 2.5, I always take the point. So I'll take Duke 2.5. Like, I think these are always going to come down to like a 1-2 goal game. Just an absolute battle all the way to the end.
I'm very interested to see how the face-offs go.
Of course you are.
Because P. LaSalle is playing fantastic. And right now, it's P. LaSalle and Mike Sisselberger are far and away the most valuable PLL draft face-off guys.
I thought the kid from St. Joe's leads the NCAA in face-off percentage.
Zach Cole went under 50% last week. He's gone under 50% a couple times.
Okay.
Strength of schedule wise, and I'm not saying he's not a great player, but strength of schedule wise, like Sisselberger, for instance, played against Riley, who's one of the better face-off guys in the country, and went at 60% against him. Like, that's what I got to see from Zach Cole, him going against other studs. But the reason LaSalle is so fascinating to me, like, I would take LaSalle first just because of his ability to handle the ball and create transitions. Where, like, if I'm the Whip Snakes right now, I'm wonder how we can get P. LaSalle this, because his style, he's like a faster, bigger version of Nardella. He's like a bowling ball. And he's got he's a natural standing face-off guy now. So I think he could be a weapon in the PLL.
I hear you. And I think that's a good breakdown. And I know what you mean when you're talking about, strength of opponents. I think that makes sense. But we got another big game coming up, and you mentioned Riley from Georgetown, how he just did. We have Georgetown versus Denver, out at Denver. Denver favored by 2. I'll kick this off since it's the Big East, my forte. And I'll tell you what, I think that, Georgetown's taken a lot of shit at the beginning of this year, coming out slow, and, how highly they were ranked. I think, the second half of the season, we're going to see a different Georgetown team. I think, the result against Lehigh, they scored finally. They were scoring a lot of goals, but the defense didn't really hold up. But we know, we had Rowlett on. He's the D guy down there. We know he's probably going to whip those guys into shape. I think, Georgetown is going to come out fighting, and then Denver's just Denver. I feel like whenever I played Denver in college, they're just robots. They have 3 defensemen who are 6'3" that just sit in the chair the whole game and play defense. What's up?
There's an X factor here. I played at Denver, right? Those kids are hammered. They're hammered, and it's a wet campus. It's overlooking the goddamn field. Everyone, it's like a party. Yeah. I bet you half the kids are high as a goat. Listen.
Oh, yeah.
There's momentum there. That place is a hard place to play, dude.
Let me tell you about the other X factor. And this is why Denver is very tough to beat at home. They were tough to beat in the pros, too. The refs. The officials.
It's not the refs. It's Tierney in the ref's ear.
No. Scotty, tell me I'm wrong. When you went out to play the Outlaws, were you not playing basically against 12 guys out there?
Well, I think the Midwest, like any refs in the Midwest, suck.
No, these were the same guys. The same. I could give you. I could write up their names down on a card for you. Okay.
Don't drop their names.
Okay. The same guys do the college games that do the outlaw games.
Okay.
And when you watch the game. People used to be like, "Oh, Greg's a conspiracy theorist." Then they'd be on the Lizards. They go out to Denver and be like, "Holy shit!" Be like, "I told you." Just watch. And look, I'm not saying I'm not saying that Denver's paying off refs. What I'm saying is that those refs officiate the game a very specific way, and Denver is used to it.
It's because
So that is a very significant thing, and that's why it's called a home field advantage.
it's also because they have PTSD and they're terrified of tyranny.
Do you think they have like a calendar where they're counting down the days like you do at Christmas, like an advent calendar for when tyranny's retired?
I think they have tyranny circled and they have Corrigan circled, and they're like, fucking those guys.
Brownie's like, wait till he retires. I'm worse.
So Scotty, you're picking Denver -2.
I don't do the lines and shit. I'm not a gambler, but yeah.
Just Denver to win. Denver to win. Greg, what do you think? Who's going to win that game?
I mean, we called this, right? All three of us talked about this when Georgetown started out slow. We were all like, they're going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
They're just
Like,
too much talent to not be good.
yeah, they're good. And the coaching staff is too elite. Like, I think Georgetown will come out. I think that Riley will do pretty well as a faceoff guy because he changes his moves up a lot. So they're not going to have their normal 63 faceoff percentage type of game for Denver. I'm going to take Georgetown in this game.
Okay.
On the
road dogs. I'm going with Denver. Like you mentioned, I think Denver's a machine. I think that even though they're just, they had a couple letdowns, they lost to Duke in overtime, but this team's so good and they're so well coached. It's hard to bet against them at home. Next game we got is some Ivy League lacrosse, Penn versus Yale, two teams that desperately need a win. Both teams do have a lot of talent. We mentioned, just like Georgetown, underperforming teams. Yale came out hot, and they think they've let up 40 goals in their last two games. That's not a winning recipe. Yale's at home; they're favored by 1.5 goals. What are we thinking about this one?
I'm gonna take Penn. I think this will be a 1-goal game. And then if it is, then Hanley's going to do his thing.
Yeah.
That kid's the real deal. This is going to be a typical Ivy League slugfest. Yale's a pretty cool place to play. But
I haven't seen that new stadium yet. Have you? The new place? Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a 1-goal game. So I would take UPenn at 1.5.
I'll take Yale.
Yeah, I saw Yale play against Villanova earlier in the season. That attack is super talented. That kid Brandow, he's just so fun to watch. He's going to get his 6 points every game at least. It's hard to stop him, and they have supporting cast as well. I think Penn's really hurting this year since they lost their attackman Gergar. He blew his knee out against St. Joe's, I think, earlier in the season, and he was kind of their primary attack scoring to supplement kind of Hanley scoring from the midfield. So I think that Penn's offense is still trying to kind of find their groove, rotating new guys in and out. So I'm going to go with Yale at home there, Yale to win that game. And then last but not least, we got Syracuse, young team trying to find their groove versus Scotty's Irishman. Notre Dame's at home. They're favored by 4.5 goals. I'm not betting against Notre Dame at all. So what do you guys think?
I'm going to take Notre Dame. I mean, I think Cuse is going to play hard. I think the last couple of years, Notre Dame's had their number pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to come in with some energy. Petra will definitely have them prepped, but I mean, I don't know if they have the horses on defense right now to guard that offense.
That's going to be at Notre Dame?
Yeah, at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
If this note's correct.
They have a huge face-off advantage. They have a home field advantage. And I just think Notre Dame is definitively a top 3 program in this country. So, yeah.
I think Syracuse has something in the works. I love watching them play. They have fun. They're throwing behind the backs, just getting it around the horn. Like, watching them play, they have fun.
I think Syracuse is a year away.
Yeah,
year or two away for sure. But I think this is a get-right game for Notre Dame, right? They just had an absolute battle with Virginia. That takes a lot out of you. I think, they get back to the basics here. They, get ahead by 3, 4, 5 goals and just coast.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, that wraps up our predictions for this week. We will regroup on those on next week's episode, recap those games, see who was right, who was wrong. I think we had some pretty solid takes, pretty solid predictions of what we should see, but man, who knows with this college lacrosse season? We've seen crazier things.
Yeah, absolutely.
we got some housekeeping with the PLL as well. We'd be remiss not to mention the class of Hall of Fame inductees that was just announced. I know you guys have played or know of these guys. We mentioned Brian Spallina as we were talking about the show earlier on, but just to list off the list is Ryan Powell, Jesse Hubbard, Ryan Boyle, Roy Colsey, Brian Spallina, Greg Catrano. They've all been named to the 2023 Professional Lacrosse Hall of Fame class. So congratulations to them.
Man, those names, like,
They're
I mean, the talent that was in the MLL in the early days is absolutely astounding. And, you know, a few of those guys you just named were on the barrage all at the same time. Boyle, Brian Spallina, who else did you just say?
Catrano.
Hubbard, Catrano, and Ryan Powell.
Yeah, dude. And Rhino,
And
dude, we're
Colby.
talking about Ryan Powell. Like one of the all-times. Yeah, man. I know I can say personally I played with Brian Spallina, and I've played against Brian Spallina, and he is the winningest lacrosse player, championship-wise, in history for a reason.
Yep.
I've never seen, yes, talented, but I've never seen somebody completely just get in the head of an entire other organization before a game.
I agree.
If you played against him, all you would be thinking about the entire game is, is it shutting Brian up? No, it's not shutting Brian up. Yeah. Is he going to slash you 5 minutes after the play? He's going to go to the box and talk shit to your whole team the whole time he's sitting in the box. If he's playing for you, or you're like, how many man-down face-offs am I going to take this game? But just an absolute beauty. And like you said, he's a teacher. He teaches little kids for a living. Yep. And then he gets on the field and he turns into the absolute antichrist.
Maniac, bro.
And it's unbelievable. And then as soon as he takes his lid off, he gets back in the locker room. He's the biggest jokester ever.
You're the sweetest,
the warmest, kindest. Yeah. So, yeah, congratulations to Brian. I sent him a text when I found out. Congratulations to Rhino, Boyle, all those guys. It just shows you, I hope that they do it right by giving people who, like the kids who are following the PLL, I hope they give them a good show on social of like, Google these guys, man.
Like highlights. Yeah.
Dude, Google these guys. Find out everything about them because they are PLL stands on the shoulders of dudes like that for sure.
Yeah, Catrano's a guy that I looked up to. I tried to. He's one of the best goals of all time. So watching him get in there, he's the GOAT. And then obviously all those names, man. Those guys are all legends.
Yeah, very cool.
Is there anyone that you think that they might have left out or kind of were omitted that you would have liked to seen in there?
No, I like that they keep it small, like these small.
Yeah, keep it a small class every year, a handful of guys. I like that they're not even like they're just. It doesn't matter what your position is, just kind of going. But you got to look at this. The MLL started in 2001, man. We got a lot of years of sick, incredible lacrosse players
coming up. Yeah.
Like the merit checks of the world, right? Like there's going to be. Those names are coming, man.
Yep. No, it's definitely cool what the PL has done to honor those guys. And what you were saying about kind of like the highlights, I love following Powell Lacrosse on Instagram because they love highlighting those old school guys. Like they'll pull highlights from when like these guys were playing at Placid or Vale and just like the stuff they were doing out there, man. It's great to see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, Mikey Powell actually got his jersey retired in the rafters at the Dome. I was talking to Nate Watkins. It was a little wonky. They took down Ryan and Casey's jerseys to showcase Mike's jersey, which was very awkward because I was like, wouldn't you want all three of those up there together? Like, wouldn't that be the coolest thing? But Syracuse didn't get the memo. That's really weird in my opinion.
Well, they could just have like one banner, maybe 22 banner with all their names on it. They could have the jersey retired for 8 different 22s.
Dude, that's actually a
22
banner with the last names on all of them.
That'd be dope.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm always thinking.
Call Mr. Syracuse and let him know.
Yeah. I'll call the AD. I'll call Anish. I'll have Anish put in a word.
Anish, get on it, man.
Anish got it.
Well, fellas, that wraps up another great episode. 22 is in the books. Always great chopping it up with you guys. And I am super pumped that we're returning to our weekly cadence. We're going to have all the college recaps, all the predictions, any news that comes out in the professional lacrosse world as we're ramping up in the college lacrosse season and getting ready for the POL season. The draft of the POL is not too far in advance. We'll be sure to highlight those predictions of who we think each team should take coming up. But man, we got a lot of lax in our future, and I'm glad to be chopping it up with you guys.
So much lax, boys. Shout out to Blaine for my sick astronaut hat.
Love it.
Love it. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and subscribe to the TorchPro YouTube channel. And fellas, that is episode 22. I'll see you guys next week.
Bye.